And welcome to today's edition of Benivo Bites. We are live. We've got amazing subject. Hi there. We got Nawzad from I think you're with Grable, aren't you, Nawzad, from Bangalore. We've got Ray Abbott coming in from Vancouver. We've got Talia from Sofia. People are coming in from all over the world. This is so exciting. Christina, you've seen a lot of talk about intra-India moves. My God, we are going to be talking about them and so much more. We're going to be showing you some really cool technology. We've got so much stuff coming on the show today. It's just huge. But you know how it works. This is the world's first mobility technology show, and what we want you to do is what you're doing at the moment is join in the conversation, write in the comments box, ask us questions as we go through the topics today, help us inform the debate, and just join in the fun. Say where you are, what's going on in your life, what company you're with, what questions you've got. Say hello to friends that might be on the show too. And let's have a really good session today, because today we're going to be talking about India. And India is probably it is the fastest growing global mobility market in the world. And we've got some great people on the show today. We've got lots of good stuff, and we're really, really going to be getting into that. But my gosh, it's been such a great week. I mean, what a week it's been. A number of us, certainly in Europe, were at the Forum for Expatriate Management, the Emma's dinner and the conference. It was a great conference and a wonderful award ceremony, and more on that in breaking news. But absolutely delighted that we at Benivo were recognized and got the award for the best assignment management technology in the business. So we're super excited about that. And of course, a huge shout out to, and she'll be on the show later, to Julie Onslow-Cole, who got the Lifetime Achievement Award for her outstanding contribution to global mobility. So congratulations to Julia, and indeed congratulations to all my colleagues at Benivo for that technology win. That really is something. Now, we've got some great shows coming up in the future weeks. I'm delighted to say that on the 17th of November, so next week, we're talking about remote working and the compensation conundrum. And I'm joined there with Cherie Curry, who is the reward person at Hilton, and also Matthew Pasquale and Joe Pansamo, both from BDO. And what is the compensation conundrum? Well, it's really that big question about how do you reward people who are no longer working in the office, but who are working in a remote location? How do you do that? Do you reward them by reference to what they used to earn when they're in the office, or do you reward them by reference to what is a comparable local salary? And there's all sorts of added aspects around that. And we're going to get into that in some depth. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. There's a lot of very, very strong views out there. But we're going to have a great show discussing the compensation conundrum next week. And the following week, the 24th of November, my gosh, we've got an amazing show for you. We're going to be showing you some really cool machine learning and AI and how it automates expense management. Now, I'm just going to excite you a little bit by telling you about what this technology does, because it is quite awesome. Imagine that you have an expense receipt. And at the moment, you put that in and you seek reimbursement, and maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, you get reimbursement. Now imagine a situation where you've got an expense receipt, you look at it with your cell phone, you go tap, 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 it uploads it, The technology reads your expense receipt, translates it if it's not in the right language. Using AI, it compares it to policy, and then it pays you the reimbursement. And we're talking about reimbursement within seconds rather than weeks. It is such cool technology, and this is all technology that we've been developing at Benivo, and we're going to show you that live on air in 2 weeks' time. So as I said, we've got some really, really great stuff coming in. Now, the other thing I want to mention, of course, that's really exciting is, of course, we've got the top 100. Now, the top 100 nominations have been flooding in, and we're really, really excited by this. It is going to be an awesome list when it comes out, and we're releasing it on the 15th of December. But the key date now is you've got 7 days left to make your nomination. So if you want to go out there, join in the fun and nominate people for the top 100, remember this is the corporate list we're doing. Now is the time. Just head over to top100.benivo.com. And in case you don't remember, let me just remind you a bit about what the top 100 is all about. So I'd like to thank all our partner organizations who are kindly helping us make this possible. So to all of you, many, many thanks. And they're all going to be live with us on the big reveal show on the 15th of December. But we put it up there, top100.benivo.com/nominate. Go in there, make your nominations. You've got literally a week to do it, but it's going to be awesome. Now, the other thing that we've started doing every week is every week we have a breaking news feature, and we always like to share what's going on in the marketplace, who's moved jobs, who's been promoted, other items of news or gossip in our industry. And I try and keep it to just a minute, so it's really short and sweet. So let's go into today's today's breaking news, and see what's been going on in the last week in the wonderful world that we all love of global mobility. So that's today's breaking news. Congratulations to all the people there who have either moved job or been promoted or been appointed partner. Congratulations to all of you. Really big congratulations from all of us. Congratulations, of course, to Julia, who will be with us on the show in momentarily on her Lifetime Achievement Award. And also, what about that household goods contract? What about that? Okay, US Department of Defense, so it's basically the US military. Okay, what a whopper that is. $20 billion, that's the ceiling of the contract, over 9 years. Okay, that is one hell of a contract. And I know it was very contentious. There was a lot of negotiations went on about it. We don't have time to get into that today, but amazing, amazing contract. And congratulations to everybody who has been involved in winning that contract in that consortium, and obviously lots of work to be carried on with that over the coming years as people fulfill that contract. Anyway, what I'd like to do now, without further ado, as we continue our focus on India, is I'll bring Julie on. And also, I should actually say a big shout out to everybody in India. I appreciate that we go out at a time that's really convenient for people on the East Coast of the US and in Europe, but it's not so convenient for people in India. And I appreciate that it's 9:30 p.m. at night. We go live in India. And I know a lot of you are actually, despite that, watching the show, presumably at home, and I know many more of you will be watching it live over the coming 7 to 14 days. But anyway, many thanks all of you for staying up to be with us. We really appreciate it. So without further hesitation, let's bring on the legend, the one and only, the outstanding achiever, the lifetime achievement, Julia Onslow-Cole. Hi, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
It was great seeing you there and seeing you get on stage winning that award. And I know you got a standing ovation, which was very, very well deserved. Now, I know you're going to be talking to us about India, but obviously the big news of the week has also been the lifting of the US travel ban.
Yes, it's been amazing. And I've seen some of the comments in the box, and Lindsay was saying, she's just seeing her parents in the US for the first time in 19 months.
And as if by magic, there it is on screen.
Yeah. So that's lovely, Lindsay. So pleased for you. And I think someone else was saying that they were hoping to see their parents soon. So it's been great. Yeah.
And we got that too. I think that was Emily saying that.
Yes, Emily. Yeah. So it's been wonderful, people being reunited.
Okay, so you're going to talk to us about India today, is that right?
Yes, I'm going to talk about India, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to the Fragomen team in India. So that's Manal Galari, Arkina Mittal, and Sebin Ginny. Also, I wanted to give a special shout out to Bindu Menon, because I can see she's on, and she hasn't been on for a couple of weeks, and we've really missed you. So I'm glad you're on, and you can make some comments as well, on my update, particularly on visitors. Anyway, the first thing to say that's really, really positive is that the number of COVID cases in India are really, really falling, and the rates are well under 2% positivity. When you think of the size of the population, that's really impressive. And they had been around 5%, and in some places they had been at their peak about 30%. So that's fantastic to see those kind of statistics. And also another really important statistic is that the recovery rate is 98.24%. So that means, hardly any, in terms of the size of the population, again, hardly many deaths from COVID, which is, really, really positive. And what the sort of prognosis for India is that we're really heading into an endemic rather than a pandemic. So altogether, very good news. Now, the second thing to say, and I think this is worth explaining, there's lots of different vaccines in India that are widely available, but the three main ones are Covaxin, Covishield, and Sputnik 5. Now, Sputnik 5 is a Russian-based vaccine, and that does not have any WHO approval, which means almost no country will actually accept that if they have a policy which allows doubly vaccinated people in. And Covishield
so if you've been vaccinated with that one, then
it's quite difficult at the moment.
It's pretty useless, because you can't then get another vaccine afterwards.
No. Then Covishield, that's by AstraZeneca, and that was WHO approved. And now, luckily, Covaxin has been approved on November the 3rd. So if it's Covaxin or Covishield, that's good news. But there's only 25% of the population in India have had 2 vaccines, and 54% have just had the 1 dose. So I'm just sort of explaining that because so many of the rules depend on being doubly vaccinated with a WHO approved vaccine, that this is kind of quite difficult. Now, I want to concentrate on the rules outbound from India to start with. And as we all have just said, fantastic news from the 8th of November, which was Monday, US travel ban has been lifted. You don't need an NIE, a national interest exemption, but you have to have the 2 vaccinations unless you're a child under 18. So there's been this huge rush of applications to the US consulates, because for Indian citizens, you do need a visa to get in the US. Now, those people who have like a 10-year visit visa, they're fine. But then for other people who need a B1, B2 visa, there's a big queue at these US consulates. Now, what the US consulates are doing is that they're prioritizing work permit holders. So it is quite difficult to get a visit visa to the US. And today I actually sat with a team and we saw how quickly we could get appointments. So if it's a work permit holder, you can get an appointment for a December, but for visitors, it's pushed right out. So that's quite disappointing. I mean, I think the US consulates are really trying to gear up, but this is a bit of a block. And to add to this problem, there's a lot of flight cancellations. It's very difficult to get a flight at the moment to the US. And we've had a lot of clients having problems with getting flights. You cannot book a flight unless you have the visa. American Airlines, as an example, cancelled 1,000 flights on Sunday. That's 20% of its operations.
And I'm guessing the prices have gone right up too.
The prices are sky high. So I think part of it's bad weather, part of it's staff shortages, and part of it is kind of a problem, because if you start cancelling flights, you've got all your crew in the wrong places, and then it's even more difficult to schedule back the flights. So, those are all the problems. And I think it's really important for global mobility, people who are moving people from India to the US, to appreciate it's not just the travel ban, but it's also getting that visa and it's also getting a flight. So you have to factor that in. And at the moment, there's a sort of crunch of people who want companies that want to move their people to the US to start studying in January, or the children need to study from January, or they really want to start their assignments in January. And there's this sort of big rush. So please bear that in mind. Now, traveling to the UK from India, the British High Commission in India are offering services, and we tested those out this morning, and there's good availability. And obviously in the UK, there's no red list. So if you're doubly vaccinated, and the UK accept Covishield and Covaxin, the one that just got WHO approval, but only from the 22nd of November. So it's those 2 vaccines. And then you have to have a negative COVID test, and you have to have no quarantine. Then there's no quarantine. It's a good comment on the prices. I actually know a few weeks ago, someone was looking at prices of airfares to Australia, and they were ridiculous, like £11,000 or something for a fare that used to be, a couple of thousand. So that is something to keep an eye on. So
Binda's hoping to go to Boston in January, so we'll have to find a way of helping you, Binda.
Yeah, we'll help you, Bindu. Yeah, we'll definitely help you. But I mean, I don't know. Again, it's like really think about applying now. So other destinations outbound, some countries like China and some countries in Latin America like Panama is an outright ban from people coming from India. So for example, in China, the Indian government works on reciprocity. So because China won't take anyone from India, neither will India take anyone from China. And so there's no flights. So now looking at inbound to India, the Ministry of Home Affairs have just started granting tourist visas. But if you're going to India and you were given a tourist visa, that you were given it before the 6th of October this year, it's not valid and you've got to get another one. And we've seen this a spike in applications for work permits for India, which is really good news, because what it's meaning is the economy in India is really picking up, and the figures on the economy show that there's a lot of consumer consumption, lot of sales increasing, and there's a surge in manufacturing. So we're seeing a lot of European firms expand their presence in India, and we're seeing the tech companies expand their operations in India. And you'll remember that when President Trump started, clamping down on H's and L's, that was one of the things that was said at the time, that, we would expect perhaps, Indian operations to ramp up more within India. So, in conclusion, it's fairly difficult, but it's better than it was. But hopefully this, the COVID situation and the economic recovery will just gain more and more momentum, and we'll see things going from strength to strength.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Julia. And we'll see you at the end of the show. What we're going to move on to now is we're running this Changemakers initiative, which is a way that the industry can start, or we can start helping the industry give back to local charities around the world. We have about 50 Changemakers. We're actually looking to get up to maybe as many as 100 Changemakers around the world. And what I'd like to do now to you in the audience is to introduce you to our Changemakers. And then we've got one of them with us. And that Changemaker is going to tell us a bit about the charity that they are supporting. And obviously we've got an India focus today. So let's meet our Changemakers, and then we'll bring on today's Changemaker to talk about the charity that they are supporting. So thank you, Julia. Now, you know how it works, audience. Okay, hit the heart, hit the like, hit the applause. Let's say a big, big thank you to Julia, and also a big shout out to the Changemakers and to our special guest Changemaker who's joining us in a moment. So we have Changemakers from all over the world, and obviously we've got ourselves a Changemaker based in India today. So Nandu, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. And tell us, Nandu, tell us a bit about yourself. We'll go on to the charity in a moment. Tell us a bit about yourself and your work and your program. You're with Atkins, aren't you?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, and welcome to everyone. And I'm very pleased to be part of this session, specifically the Changemakers, which I'm very close personally to it. About myself, I have around 20 plus years of experience, primarily with global mobility. As you said, I'm with Atkins SNCL. Prior to this, I was with Capgemini, Deloitte, and Logica, CGI, etc. So specific about Atkins SNCL, so we are into the engineering services, infrastructure, nuclear, and major projects. We have around 30,000 plus employees globally, headquartered in Montreal. So that's about the Atkins and SNCL.
So Nandu is very kindly agreed to be with us for the rest of the show when we get on to talk about India and Indian technology. But let's just talk. I mean, the concept of the Changemakers is we're pulling together a group of senior global mobility professionals from around the world who are passionate about technology, want to help develop new technology for the industry, but at the same time, there's a local charity that they want to support. And our thank you to all our Changemakers is that on their behalf, we are supporting a local charity that they support. So Nandu, tell us about your charity. I believe it's called Sri Shankara. So tell us a bit about it.
That's right. So it is Sri Shankara Cancer Foundation. It was founded by Dr. B.S. Srinath, which is based in Bangalore in India. Their vision is to be acknowledged leader in the field of cancer cure and research by ensuring that high quality care reaches to the common man. They really help a lot of poor and needy. So it's completely free for them. And they want to be a pioneer in cancer cure research through innovation and being sensitive to the environment, which we all exist. So in terms of philosophy, they have access to equitable and affordable cancer care to all their patients, latest technology for highest standards of care. So you don't believe in terms of, I can share a link, you can see they use the world class in terms of infrastructure and highly research and innovative methods for the cancer cure. Focus on awareness and
a photo here, I think, of the facility. So that's the hospital and research center, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's very fantastic. So who are in India or in Bangalore, I would humbly request for them to visit, because in terms of, if I have to compare what they do in terms of the cancer cure, specifically for the children and women, like if we take 100 patients, almost 95 to 96 patients get cured in this hospital. So on a daily basis, they have around 150 in terms of daycare, and they do like 350 complex surgeries in a month. And they started in 2012, but it's one of the I would say world-class center for cancer cure in India, and they have done around 50,000 complex surgeries so far. So and it's absolutely free for the poor and needy, and very nominal charges to have the world-class infrastructure. So it's infrastructure similar to US and UK. They coordinate with various hospitals with US on in terms of the share the common practices and innovative methods for cancer cure.
Well, that's amazing, Nanda. We are absolutely delighted that we are helping you to support that amazing charity. If in the audience you would like to join us as a change maker, I'm afraid this is open to corporate mobility professionals only, but if you would like to join us as a change maker, then just drop me a line or email any of my colleagues, and we will certainly see whether we can get you involved. Okay, so what we want to do now is I want to bring on the rest of the panel and get to talk about technology, about the Indian market. And I'm delighted that with us we've got Nitsan Udan, who's our CEO at Benivo, but also Pankaj Bhatia, who's recently joined us as and is helping us open a Bangalore-based office. So without further ado, let me bring on, and you know how it works, everybody. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Hit the heart, hit the like, hit the applause, and let's give a really, really big shout out to Nandu for all the amazing work he does supporting the Sri Shankara Hospital, and also to welcome Nitsan and Pankaj to our stage as we move on the debate.
Thank you, Brian, and Benivo, and thank you so much for the support.
Hello, everybody. Hello. So we've got Pankaj, we've got Nitsan, we've got Nandu, and the subject today is focused on India. And I suppose the first question I've got to ask is why India? Why the focus on India? And Pankaj, Nitsan, tell me a bit about why there's so much focus on India at the moment.
Sure. So maybe I can take a stab at it first, Brian. So thanks for having me on the show. So just in terms of the growth which is happening in India, it's actually phenomenal. So just last week, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has retained the projection for India's economic growth. For the current financial year, it's going to be around nearly double digit, 10%. Actually, it's 9.5%. And for the global economy, it's around 5.9%. So I think we kind of, going to grow exponentially. For the next financial year, the growth is expected to be 8.5% as well. So what we are expected to do actually over the next couple of years, we are expected to be the fastest growing large economy in the world, and that includes doing or going beyond China as well. So that's like a phenomenal growth that we are looking at, and of course we are seeing all the positive signs. The stock market is nearly at an all-time high. The business is very buoyant in terms of what they are looking at. I think we are talking about technology. The Indian IT industry, etc., is heavily kind of focused on that. So all the right signals are kind of coming in. So, yeah.
I mean, I know from our point of view, we are very, very focused on India. And so I'm delighted to say I can't give out the name, but I'm delighted to say that we have actually, and maybe you can tell us a bit more about it, but we have actually been appointed as the advisors to one of the top 3 India-based IT companies. So I don't know whether there's more you can say about that contract, Nitsan.
Yeah, so namaste everyone, and a very exciting day for us to announce setting up our activity in India, as well as welcoming Pankaj to Benivo now with us full time. So welcome. I think to Pankaj touched on a few points, right, in terms of the macro economy and the opportunities, which are of course very relevant. Also, when we look in our industry at mobility, India is the second largest market for mobility in terms of outbound, inbound, and domestic moves. There's just a lot of moves there. In a way, you can ask Benivo, why just now? What took you so long? And I think it's a very exciting step for us. We've been working with as with Indian companies, with companies sending employees from India for quite a few years to India, with domestic moves as well. And what we've seen is that there is a strong fit also to our product, right? That it's a lot of the moves are by technology savvy people who are looking for technology solution. A lot of time when Indian people are moving, they make decision based on other people's experiences, whether it's from informal networks, whether it's from talking to others, and just being able to bring that into a platform and systemize that is something that we've got fantastic feedback at. And generally, right, this is the opportunity for technology, for automation, for scale, to really deliver fantastic results as we've seen. So that's in a nutshell why.
And Pankaj, I mean, I know a lot of people do know you, but an awful lot of people maybe don't know you either. Could you just tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So basically, Brian, I have a mobility experience of 25 years. I think perhaps that's the only thing that I've done in my life is mobility. Started my career with KPMG for 5.5 years. I was in advisory role, moved to Accenture. When it was just 3,000 people in India, I set up the mobility practice for Accenture in India, setting up policies, setting up processes, vendors, etc. Moved to Genpact G Capital, was the vice president for global mobility for 1.5 years. And then moved to Honeywell, where I was there for around 11 years, where I handled again end-to-end mobility, more focused on the compliance areas, brought the immigration function together for the organization as well. But and my last role has been to assist British American Tobacco, BAT, as well. I would say I think one of the key things that I've done as part of all these roles is the internal alignment with the different stakeholders. So while the relocation vendors may not generally see the dynamics within an organization, there's a lot of stakeholders which work behind the scenes within an organization, within an industry, the finance, the HR, the legal, etc. And that's where I think most of the mobility professionals who worked in the industry actually come in to bring it together. And of course, the technology is a key enabler over there.
Absolutely. And we're going to you mentioned technology, which is a great segue. We're going to get into a technology demo in probably about 10 minutes time or so. We've got a real technology demo that we're going to show you specifically aimed at the Indian market. Before we do, I mean, our philosophy at Benivo is all about the power of the crowd. I mean, we believe that the crowd helps influence the way people move, and actually, we always like to listen to the crowd. It's the same with our Top 100 initiative. It's all about the power of the crowd. And here's my question too. We've got a crowd out there. We've got a couple of hundred people who will be watching us. And the question that I've got is that we've opened offices now in London, in Palo Alto, now in Bangalore. We've got our technology development in Yerevan. Where next? I'm asking this question of the audience, and maybe they can help guide us, Nitzan. But where should we be opening next? So let us know if you've got thoughts about where you think if you were in Nitzan's shoes, if you were running Benivo, where you think we should be opening offices. We'd love to hear your views on that. And whilst your answers are coming in, I'll move the conversation on and get back to India. And the phrase I'm going to use here is the war for talent revisited, because the war for talent was a phrase, I think it was McKinsey that came out with the phrase of the war for talent, probably, I don't know, 20 years ago. I mean, it's an old phrase, but it's come back with a vengeance post-pandemic. I know they now call it the Great Resignation, but it seems to be the same thing. How's that happening in India? I mean, I've heard Americans talk about it. I've heard people in Europe talk about it. But what's this Great Resignation, this war for talent, call it what you will? What's it like in India? Has it gone crazy like in the rest of the world? What's going on? So Nandu, Pankaj, tell us your views on the demographics of the employment market at the moment.
Maybe I'll just go first. So the markets are really opened up after pandemic. Means we have seen a bit of a very passive one, but now it's very active. And specifically, as you rightly mentioned, the war for talent is very high. And also, there were a lot of self-realization last, I would say, 18 months to 2 years. And a lot of people realize that more in terms of their personal well-being is most important. So I think that really make them realize whether is that really aligned to their own, like the personal values, etc. So that's where people are trying to choose, okay, should I just do more in terms of the remote working or make it more flexible? So I think based on that, now people are choosing what is based on their values and what is more important for them. So we are seeing similar to other parts of the world, India is again a high market in terms of the talent. So we are seeing a lot of movements happening across India. So that's very common here.
And Pankaj, what's happening? We're going to get onto domestic moves in a moment, but let's start off by talking about international moves. What are we seeing happening with the levels of international moves now, both inbound and outbound? I said we'll come on to domestic, but let's just focus on international for the moment.
Right. So I think the barriers that Julia briefly spoke about, right? I think those were the barriers in terms of, things like the vaccinations, the flights, the visas, etc. I think the Indian IT industry, the Indian industry on an overall basis has really been hungry and, wanting to kind of get things moving, but they were not able to do it because of a lot of reasons. And things are looking up now, they're looking quite good at the moment. So I think with the immigration barriers being removed, at least to some extent, I did see some comments where they said they're still finding it difficult to get interviews scheduled to get people overseas, etc. So there's a huge queue actually of people who are lined up. I think as and when those barriers are being removed more and more, we are going to see a lot more talent actually moved out. US again and Canada are the two major, jurisdiction, and of course UK as well. But US certainly has been on the top of the radar always. And like I said, I think with the limitations, with the borders being closed, that was an issue. But yeah, hopefully what is happening effective Monday, hopefully what's happening with the interviews, etc., kind of going through, we are going to see a large number of people who will be moving out. And also, I think, a lot of initiatives are being taken by the IT companies itself, right? In terms of new technologies coming in, with the COVID issues that we've had in the past, right? I think companies are looking at getting into other areas. So just to give some bit of example, in the area of aviation and hospitality, which are the two sectors that were kind of the worst hit because of the pandemic, they are investing quite a lot in things like contactless check-in facilities. The restrictions are being lifted there. Retail sector is another sector where, again, tremendous opportunities are being seen by the IT companies. So again, a lot of investments are going in this area. And I think some of the leaders are actually calling it once in a decade opportunity, right? And we've been in the pandemic just for two years, and I know it's a long period of time, but it's being seen as a huge opportunity as well, on a go forward basis.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the comments there were talking about it's a great opportunity for people in India to work from anywhere. I also saw some comments suggesting we should open an office in Goa, which sounds like a superb idea. We'll have to discuss that one offline, Nitzan. That sounds great. That whilst we're on the subject, I mean, there's the Maldives and Mauritius too that we ought to be looking at. But all joking aside, I mean, in a digital environment, and obviously India is right up there when it comes to digital employees. The whole work from anywhere concept is really, really powerful, which in a way sort of segues us onto the whole question of domestic moves, because India clearly is a very, very, very large country. And maybe in some ways it's a mistake to think of it as a country, in the sense that it's culturally so different from area to area. So tell us a little bit about domestic moves. Maybe Pankaj, just start with you. Tell us a bit about what it's like moving somebody domestically, and then I think we'll get into showing you some pretty cool technology on Indian domestic moves, because my understanding is that Indian domestic is probably second only to the US in terms of the actual volumes of moves.
Right. And then just to start with some numbers. So, you talked about the hiring, right? So just to give you an example of the top 4 IT companies, between them, they are just looking at hiring 160,000 employees, by March 2022. So, with all the skills I spoke about, the technology, etc., they are actually short of staff. The employees are looking at other opportunities, even kind of going outside their comfort zone, getting into other areas, which I think Nandu also briefly alluded to. Now, where does that talent come from? Not all that talent is available in the cities, right? Some could be in tier 2, tier 3 cities, etc. as well. And I think a lot of the businesses are concentrated in bigger cities. So while organizations are looking at building smaller centers, and specifically because of COVID, looking at perhaps remote working, etc. as well. But I think we will still see that, the bigger cities, Bangalore, Mumbai, the national capital region, etc., would continue to be those bigger centers where that talent would be required. So that means that a lot of talent from those other cities actually needs to move in to those bigger cities, and that requires people to actually move. And that's where, the point around the domestic relocation, comes in. And we're not just talking about freshers over here. Even people who are lateral hire, senior people, middle level people, they are also kind of, going through the attrition or the great resignation issue that we spoke about. So it's across all levels, not just the freshers, but even lateral hires, etc., who are moving, are going to be moving as well.
And Nandu, give me an idea for those, I appreciate there's a lot of people on the call who are from India. There's also a lot of people who maybe have never been to India. So Nandu, give me an idea. If somebody was to do a domestic move, how many miles might that be? What sort of distances are we talking about with the domestic move? Some of the ones you've seen maybe in your times at Atkins.
Yeah, sure. In India, we use we use kilometers similar to UK. So I would say minimum somewhere between 300 to 2,000 kilometers. So means people travel from Delhi to Chennai. Also, as Pankaj said, is about the tier 1 and tier 2. So as last 2 years, we have seen that a lot of people are working from different areas and different regions across India. So what companies are now really engaging the tier 2 and tier 3 universities, and even the campuses, they go and hire people, they train them, and then they move them to their organization. So we are seeing a lot of talent attraction, and also more flexibility is given specifically from the diversity perspective, the women employees, etc. Because still we are having a traditional approach mindset in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So that's where now companies are going and trying to attract the talent, and then they are bringing them. So these things gives more in terms of people who are on career breaks, or who are freshers, or specific on the different diversity groups. I think we have started seeing specific on the domestic side, people across India, they are moving to different parts. Also, it also gives an opportunity where they say, okay, you can still go and work from your place. So which means it's again where company says, okay, you can move from your base location to their home city or hometown or a village. So that also helps them to provide cash. And in terms of, if you see the domestic flights, it's amazing. It's just growing similar to US. We are seeing including in terms of the relocation bits, destination services, as well as the flights are absolutely high in numbers in India.
Okay. Well, I think maybe we ought to hop straight into a demo. I did promise you one, and we are a technology company. So Nitsan, you've been you've been very restrained so far, and I know you're dying to show us some technology. So shall we share your screen and you can talk us through some cool stuff?
Yes, let's do that. And basically, one of the reasons why our solution for India is so attractive is that we offer 3 solutions basically for the price of one, right? Which is a management platform where the mobility team can manage everything from the authorization process, the cost, the initiation, the vendor management, the system of records, and then to handle all the payments, whether it's payment to employees or pay later, our product I'll mention in a minute, or expense management, and finally also the digital destination support, so providing that support with what we call the Amazon-like experience, right? Able to see what my colleagues have done, and so on. So let's look at some of those platforms, and with a focus on an Indian domestic move to Bangalore, obviously the capital of relocation in India. So now we're looking now at a sample platform, a branded platform from some of our corporates. And what we're gonna spend time is on our favorite Stark Industries platform, this time focused for a move to Bangalore. And I can immediately see here the main thing for me: actions, everything I need to do, when do I need to do it, and how do I get it done, including any documents that I need to sign, any workflow that is relevant for me as the employee. Really the central place, a single platform for everything I need to know, from what's going on with my shipping provider to who are my key contacts, really reducing significantly the number of questions. I can search here, I can find the information, and reduce the number of inquiries that come to HR. Next is all about the destination, covering all area, housing, settling in, even culture. We'll have a quick look at that, and getting into the information there, including support for the spouse. So as part of the Benivo experience, there is a spouse platform that provides a built-in spouse support as well. And finally, access to money. We'll talk a bit later on the result on the benchmark report that we've done earlier this year, but most of the domestic policies in India are about including a large proportion of dispersing funds. We are doing it obviously in INR as fast as 1 day to make those payments, right? So up to 1 working day it takes to the employee to get the funds to their bank account. It's all automatic. They apply for it here. If it's expense management, they submit their receipt. We'll show that, as you mentioned, in 2 weeks. If it's a lump sum, they just give their bank account or a digital wallet, and they can withdraw the funds locally, instant, within 1 day. And finally, there is the pay later, which is an additional product for diversity and inclusion, providing employees with a cash advance that is then repaid back to Benivo in 6 monthly installments, interest-free, after their first salary is paid. So again, when we talk about the war on talent, we saw quite a few companies using pay later as a way to further differentiate and provide benefits to employees. Let's look at some of the actions. I can sign here my assignment letter or assignment extension or a repayment agreement, whatever document that is specific to the corporate. I can go, I can sign it, I can customize my to-dos and when do I need to do them. And if I'm looking about India specific needs, I can update my voter registration, and all in bite-sized content, never longer than a tweet, engaging content that allows me to see what are the process, what do I need to know, how long normally does it take, and I can see how long it took my colleagues, and what will I need to do, and then taking me through that process with allowing me to complete that stage. Otherwise, if I need to register my vehicle, again, showing me what is the registration process, which documents I need to prepare. All the information with regard to settling in is here in one place. One of the key other actions that are relevant is housing. So I can see what are the prices, how much, average prices in Bangalore is one thing, obviously impacted by a large diversity in prices, for me, it's going to be more relevant to see how much all my colleagues are paying. And that's the information in red I can see, right? So how much do people at the same job level like me who went to work for this company actually are spending on their accommodation, what percentage are buying versus renting, what is their commute time, how do they commute to work, what size of properties are they taking, which neighborhoods are popular, and next I can go and explore it on a map, and that's available globally on any city in India and anywhere in the world. I can see the popular areas with my colleagues in purple around my office, and the price, commute time, and information about each of those neighborhoods. If I'm looking, I touched similar about the local culture, could be relevant. I can go, and of course I can localize the platform. We're looking in English, but we support 8 of the Indian languages. I'll switch here to Kannada, which I believe is the language in Bangalore. So I can learn a little bit, if I move from the north to the south, I can learn a little bit about the differences in the culture, etc. I can
that's just awesome. So at the switch of a button, you can just change the language.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to challenge us to one of the other languages in India on the comments, just share with me, because I can't, Brian, just show me because I can't see the comments. But
Sure,
I will
nothing's come in yet, but I'm keeping an eye.
Switch to one of our 103 languages. Till then, let's see my demo skills in Camara, and how I can handle that.
So if anybody wants another language to see us in, just put it in the comments box and we'll see what we can do.
And I can have here recommendations for vendors, and I can see the star rating, right? The experience of others who use those vendors. Now I'm looking at, I believe, at housings, and I can look at popular websites with my colleagues, and I can see reviews and any feedback they had staying there. I'll switch.
Gujaratis, you've been asked to put it into.
Sorry, which one?
Gujarati.
Yeah, Gujarati it is.
See how easy that is. There we go. Immediately translated.
It's a beautiful font. The first time I see it, to be honest.
And Karen O'Brien there has just put, where is it? I adore the language functionality. And remind me, Nitzan, how many? Karen's one of our change makers, by the way. So big shout out to you, Karen. So Nitzan, remind me, how many languages do we go into?
I think Irish is her favorite. We do 103 languages by machine translation.
Okay. Anyway, you continue, Nitzan.
All right. So we're looking at some of the reviews now in Irish. Surely first per time someone looked at reviews in India in Irish. Let me go back to English. To Esperanto could have been interesting as well. I can add my review, and we gamify that experience, right? So I'm going to get points, and I can choose a charity. So just like Nandu has selected a cause he would like to support, every employee on Benivo also can do that. They choose a cause that they are passionate about it, and the more insights they share, the higher the contribution will make towards that cause that they care about. And housing was one example, but I can look at the same way on shipping providers and insurance and utilities, and even under lifestyle. I can see popular places to go out, popular restaurants in Bangalore. And again, if anyone wants to recommend here another one, we will just add it to the platform, and that's how we also build that database. So we have our baseline, of course. There is always something on the platform, but employees are getting engaged, supporting each other, and creating that feeling of a community, feeling of belonging that really does part of the magic. Switching quickly in 30 seconds to spend on the management platform that is included, right? So as part of just purchasing the Benivo experience for the employees, they also come for the same price, a management platform that allows me to do anything from initiating an employee and connecting it to my HIRS, to managing all the information about an employee, which vendors have been initiated for them, all in one click. I can initiate all their vendors, generate document, get them to sign document, see the status of each of the employees' relocation, and then go into data and insights to analyze expenses, analyze spend, analyze demographics, and alerts on documents that need to expire. Really, the technology does all the heavy lifting for us, because what we've seen, right, in more global mobilities, the teams than ever need now to own India domestic, but they have not been given the internal resources, right? So that has been a challenge and a gap that technology can help scale solve with automation.
Okay, so thanks for that. We were talking, you said that Indian domestics are not getting the support that they need. And let's just talk for our last few minutes about Indian domestics. And I know, Pankaj, that you did a benchmarking report on the subject specifically of India domestic. And perhaps you could just talk us through a few of the key findings that came out of that benchmarking report.
Sure, Brian, I can do that. So some of the key findings were around the management of the program, right? So I think which we just discussed. So while most companies have their own India domestic policy or program separately, only around 40-45% of the cases that program or policy is actually owned by the global mobility team. The balance around 60-65% of the cases is owned either by HR or outside the HR, could be the facilities team or some other team.
So I think so. It's only around 40. I think it was 44% are owned by the global mobility team, and the rest are owned outside. So in fact, the majority are owned outside global mobility. But is the trend for more to be owned within global mobility?
Yeah, so I think that's where we are seeing, and especially in the last couple of years as well, right? The global mobility team has got pulled into a lot of stuff that they historically were not involved with. For example, your business travelers, the folks who've been stranded, etc. Right? So as a result of that, I think there's an increasing realization that the global mobility team is able to actually deliver much more, is able to add much more value. And that's where I think we are seeing a trend where more and more of that responsibility is kind of going to be falling, and is already falling on the global mobility team to even manage the domestic relocation program.
Okay, and we've only got a few minutes left, but I mean, typically what is in a domestic package?
So generally, I think in most cases, what we've seen, it's kind of a mix, but generally most organizations are still currently offering cash as a amount to basically relocate. There is sometimes a mix of services also. So around, I would say 50% of the cases, there's like an all-out cash payment, which would, there's like a lump sum payment, which is made to the employee to manage their end-to-end, process, meet all costs, etc. Around 31% of the cases we've seen where there are some services also, or actually 31% is where it's only services which are being provided, which means there's like a vendor who's coming in, or it's more based on a reimbursement-based model. And around 20% of the cases we see a mix where there's a cash which is being paid and services are also being provided.
Okay, and as we finish up, I'm just going to look at some of the comments that have come in. It's really, I mean, it's very, very nice comments. I'll just read a few of them to you. From Rahini, the attention to detail is just staggering. Kudos to the Benivo team. From Krishna, just one word, awesome. From, not sure who that is, great. English is the second language of each region in India. From Nathalie, from Prasanna, impressive. From Natalie, wow. From Diane, great stuff. Benivo and Brian. And I mean, another point coming in here, scaling down the giant that is India, making it manageable. That is so great. One of the stumbling stones I always think of in regards to India is bureaucracy. Anything that helps alleviate the pressure is godsend. I did hear somebody once say that the British sort of taught India bureaucracy, but the Indians perfected it. So I don't know whether that's true or not. But anything that can be done to mitigate bureaucracy, I think is great. Other comments here that have come in: the language choice is a much needed function in India. And from Rahini, mind-boggling detailing. The Benivo teams put a lot into this. And then one last question. I'll just take I'll just take one last question here, and then we're going to finish up. Let me just find that question. It's here. How is compliance taken care of? Is that one that you could quickly deal with? The 60-second version on that one, Nitzan.
Yes, absolutely. So compliance is tracked from a number of areas. First, there are actions and to-dos for the employees to complete their compliance. Second, there are tools for the mobility team to make sure that the employees do what they need to do, with alerts to identify when documents are about to expire or when steps haven't been completed. So it's really, instead of looking at each person to do what to look what they and chase them, the technology does that, and what I can do is identify only the issues and work to resolve them as the mobility team.
Okay, and we're going to be going into a lot more of the compliance and over future weeks. And I know we've got this amazing show in a couple of weeks' time where we're going to be talking about expense management and automation and AI and also machine learning, also other sorts of really cool stuff. But just to finish up, I just want to bring Julia back in, our outstanding award winner. Julia, good to see you again at the end of the show. Thank you, everybody. We've got an amazing show lined up next week. We're going to be talking about what I've named the compensation conundrum, which is how do you reward people when they're working from home or working from anywhere, or indeed working from everywhere, because people working from anywhere may actually be working from more than one location. So we've got an amazing show lined up for you. Thank you, everybody in the audience, especially those of you in India, because I appreciate it's now 10:30 at night. So it's well past normal office hours. So great for so many of you tuned in today. And thank you to my special guest, Nandu, and to Pankaj and Julia and to Nitz. So thank you, everybody, and take care. And we'll see you all again this time next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.